First contact and betrayal. The exploration vessel Dauntless drifted silently through the nebula clouds of the Cygnus Arm, its sensors probing the swirling cosmic dust for any signs of habitable worlds. Captain Elara Jackson stood on the bridge, her weathered face illuminated by the glow of holographic displays. After 5 years of deep space exploration, the Dauntless had charted dozens of star systems, catalogued hundreds of planets, but found nothing that indicated intelligent life beyond Earth. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the 4th planet in this system," announced Science Officer Wei, his fingers dancing across the console. "It's artificial." Jackson's heart skipped a beat. If confirmed, this would be humanity's first evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. "On screen," she ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline now coursing through her veins. The main view screen shifted to show a rust-colored planet orbiting a yellow star. Overlaid on the image were bright spots indicating energy signatures too regular to be natural. "Settlements?" asked Commander Rodriguez, the ship's executive officer. "More like outposts," Wei replied. "They're arranged in a perfect geometric pattern around the planet. Definitely not natural formation." Jackson straightened her uniform. "This is what we've been searching for. Take us into orbit. Standard approach protocol. Open all communication frequencies and broadcast first contact package Alpha." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency as the Dauntless adjusted its course. Humanity had prepared extensively for this moment, creating detailed protocols for peaceful first contact. The package being transmitted contained basic mathematical formulas, atomic structure diagrams, and simple linguistic patterns, universal concepts that any technologically advanced species should recognize. "Captain, we're receiving a response," reported Communications Officer Patel, her eyes wide with excitement. It's structured, definitely artificial, and directed at us." "Can we decode it?" Jackson asked. "The computer is working on it, but it will take time." "Wait, they're sending visual data now." The view screen flickered and revealed a being unlike anything humans had encountered before. Tall and slender, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered with a metallic iridescence. 6 eyes arranged in a circular pattern dominated a face with no visible mouth. The alien wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor adorned with intricate symbols. Jackson stepped forward. "I am Captain Elara Jackson of the Earth vessel Dauntless. We come in peace as explorers and wish to establish friendly relations." The ship's AI translated her words into mathematical sequences, hoping the alien intelligence would understand the peaceful intent. After a moment, the alien responded, its communication coming as a series of harmonic tones that the computer struggled to interpret. "We are the Voidborn." The translation finally appeared. "Your presence has been noted. Your vessel uses primitive propulsion. Your species is unknown to our archives." Jackson glanced at Rodriguez, who nodded encouragingly. "We are from Earth, a planet approximately 2,000 light-years from this position. Our species has only recently developed interstellar travel. We seek knowledge and peaceful exchange with other intelligent species." The Voidborn representative seemed to consider this for a moment, its 6 eyes blinking in an unsynchronized pattern. "Approach our orbital station for further communication. Coordinates are being transmitted." "Should we trust them, Captain?" Rodriguez whispered. Jackson considered their options. The Dauntless wasn't designed for combat. It was an exploration vessel with minimal defensive capabilities. But this was exactly what their mission was about: making contact, establishing relations, and learning about the universe beyond their home. "We follow protocol," she decided. "Approach with caution, shields at standby. Alert all crew to first contact procedures." The Dauntless adjusted its course toward the coordinates provided by the Voidborn. As they approached, a massive space station came into view, a structure of gleaming metal and crystalline formations that dwarfed their vessel. It rotated slowly, generating artificial gravity, and featured numerous docking bays for ships of various sizes. "Magnificent," breathed Wei. "Their engineering capabilities are centuries beyond ours." "Captain," Tactical Officer Quan interrupted. "I'm detecting energy buildup within the station. It appears to be weapons systems activating." Before Jackson could respond, brilliant beams of energy erupted from the station, striking the Dauntless with devastating precision. The ship shuddered violently as alarms blared throughout. "Shields failing," Quan shouted over the chaos. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Evasive maneuvers," Jackson ordered, gripping her command chair as the ship lurched. "Get us out of here. Launch emergency beacon." Rodriguez worked frantically at his console. "Engines at 30% capacity. We can't outrun them." More energy beams lanced out from the station, joined now by smaller void-borne vessels that had appeared seemingly from nowhere. The Dauntless, designed for scientific exploration rather than warfare, stood no chance against the coordinated assault. "All hands to escape pods," Jackson commanded, activating the ship-wide emergency protocol. "Initiate core data dump to emergency beacon. Earth needs to know what happened here." As crew members rushed to evacuation stations, Jackson recorded a final message. "This is Captain Elara Jackson of the Dauntless. We have made contact with an advanced species calling themselves the Voidborn. They attacked without provocation after initial peaceful communication. Their technology far exceeds our own. I am transmitting all scan data of their vessels and weapons capabilities. Earth must prepare. They see us as primitive and show no interest in dialogue. God help us all." The message, along with all the ship's sensor data, was transmitted via quantum entanglement to Earth just moments before another barrage hit the Dauntless. The ship's reactor containment failed, and in a brilliant flash of light, humanity's first interstellar explorer vanished from existence. Only 3 escape pods managed to launch before the destruction. Only one would eventually be recovered, carrying a critically injured navigation officer and the final visual records of humanity's first and disastrous contact with alien intelligence. 6 weeks later, in the orbital headquarters of the United Earth Defense Force, Admiral Elena Chen watched the final moments of the Dauntless in stunned silence. Around the conference tables at the highest-ranking military officers and government officials of Earth's unified government. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice tight with controlled fury. Once more, they watched Captain Jackson's final message, followed by the sensor data showing the overwhelming technological superiority of the void-borne vessels. "They didn't even attempt to communicate their hostility," said General Santos, head of the UEDF. "They just eliminated our people." "Because they consider us insects," Chen replied, pausing the footage on an image of a void-borne ship. "Look at their design philosophy. Efficient, lethal, without ornamental features. These aren't explorers. They're conquerors." Defense Minister Okoro shook his head in disbelief. "We've spent centuries dreaming of first contact, hoping for benevolent aliens who would share knowledge and guide us to a new golden age. Instead, we find this." The lone survivor from the Dauntless, Lieutenant Harper, regained consciousness yesterday, reported Dr. Kazuo, chief of UEDF Medical Division. He reports overhearing the void-borne communications after his escape pod was initially captured. They referred to humans as unregistered organics and discussed standard processing protocols for new species. "Processing?" asked Okoro. "Based on Lieutenant Harper's account and the data we've recovered, we believe the void-borne systematically conquer and subjugate other species," Chen explained. "They integrate useful biological traits and technologies into their collective and eliminate those they deem without value." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "How long until they find Earth?" President Alvarez finally asked. "The Dauntless was 2,000 light-years from our solar system," responded Admiral Chen. "But the beacon it launched used quantum communication, instantaneous across any distance. The Voidborn will have detected that transmission. They now know Earth exists, though not its exact location. Based on their propulsion technology, I estimate we have 2 years, maybe 3, before they arrive." 3 years to prepare for war against an enemy with technology centuries beyond our own. General Santos looked grim. It's not enough time. It has to be, Chen said firmly. We've been monitoring their communications since retrieving Lieutenant Harper's pod. They're methodical, even rigid in their tactics. They consider us primitive, and therefore predictable. That will be their mistake. President Alvarez stood, her face resolute. Implement Emergency Protocol Omega. All Earth nations will redirect industrial capacity to defense production. Admiral Chen, you mentioned a theoretical weapons system in your last briefing, something that could potentially match their technology. Chen nodded. Project Leviathan. It's experimental, based on gravitational manipulation technology we've been developing. In theory, it could create weapons more powerful than anything we currently possess, but it's never been tested outside simulations. Make it reality, ordered Alvarez. Whatever resources you need, you'll have them. Humanity faces extinction. Admiral, convention and caution must be set aside. As the meeting adjourned, Chen remained, staring at the frozen image of the void-born ship. You consider us primitive, she whispered. You'll learn that humanity is at its most dangerous when cornered. In orbital shipyards around Earth and Mars, construction began immediately. Conventional warships were built by the dozens, then hundreds, using every scrap of available resources. But in a classified facility hidden within the asteroid belt, the most ambitious engineering project in human history took shape. Project Leviathan would either be humanity's salvation or its most magnificent failure. There would be no middle ground. The ultimate weapon. Captain Maya Rice stood in the observation deck of Sarah's station, watching as technicians swarmed over the massive hull of humanity's last hope. Unlike the conventional warships of the United Earth Defense Force, with their angular, utilitarian designs, the vessel before her featured sleek, almost organic curves that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Beautiful, isn't she? Said a voice behind her. Rice turned to see Admiral Chen entering the observation deck, her uniform crisp despite the evident exhaustion in her eyes. For 2 years, Chen had overseen Project Leviathan, pushing humanity's brightest minds to create a weapon to match the void-born threat. I'm not sure beautiful is the word I'd choose, Rice replied. Terrifying, perhaps. Chen smiled thinly. It should be terrifying. That's the point. At nearly 3 kilometers in length, the Leviathan dwarfed any previous human vessel. Its hull was composed of metamaterials that could absorb and redirect energy, making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. But its true power lay within, a revolutionary propulsion and weapons system based on manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. The gravitational drive passed its final test yesterday, Chen reported. One ship with enough destructive capability to match an entire void-born fleet, or so our simulations suggest. Ray studied the massive vessel, her expression solemn. And you want me to command it? It wasn't a question. 3 months ago, Reyes had been captain of the UEFS Indomitable, leading successful raids against the first wave of void-born scouts that had entered the outer solar system. Her unconventional tactics had resulted in 3 confirmed kills of enemy vessels with minimal human casualties, the only real successes in a war that humanity was otherwise losing badly. I need someone who can think beyond conventional tactics, Chen confirmed. Someone who understands that sometimes survival requires terrible choices. Rice touched the scar that ran from her temple to her jaw, a reminder of her last encounter with the Voidborn, when her ship had been nearly destroyed. When do we deploy? The final systems are being installed now. You'll launch in 48 hours. Chen handed her a tablet. These are your orders, along with everything we know about Voidborn fleet movements. Their main armada has broken through our defenses at Neptune. Earth is their next target. Ray studied the tactical display, which showed the overwhelming force approaching their home planet. Hundreds of Voidborn ships arranged in their characteristic geometric formations. Against them stood the remnants of Earth's fleet, brave but hopelessly outmatched. The Leviathan isn't just a ship, Captain, Chen said quietly. It's a declaration that humanity will not go quietly into extinction. Every system, every weapon, every capability has been designed with one purpose: to show the Voidborn that their assessment of us was catastrophically wrong. Over the next 48 hours, Reyes selected her crew, the best pilots, engineers, and tactical officers humanity had to offer. Many were veterans of the outer system battles, bearing physical and psychological scars from encounters with the technologically superior enemy. All understood that their mission might well be a one-way journey. On the bridge of the Leviathan, Reyes settled into the command chair, feeling the ship's systems connecting to her neural interface, another experimental technology that allowed for unprecedented control and reaction time. "All stations report," she ordered. "Engineering ready, Captain." "Gravitational drive stable and operational," reported Chief Engineer Takashi, his voice steady despite the untested nature of the technology at his command. "Weapons systems online. Primary and secondary arrays charged and ready," confirmed Tactical Officer Diaz, a former pilot who had lost her legs in the Battle of Titan. "Navigation plotted. Gravitational fold calculations complete," added Navigator Singh, whose expertise in relativistic physics had been crucial in developing the Leviathan's revolutionary drive system. Reyes opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. In a few moments, we will depart on humanity's most important mission. The enemy we face believes us to be primitive, unworthy of existence, except as subjects to be conquered or resources to be harvested. They've destroyed our outposts, killed our people, and now threaten our homeworld." She paused, looking around at her crew, each face resolute, determined. The Leviathan was built for this moment. We carry with us the hopes of every human being. Our mission is clear: break the Voidborn fleet, shatter their command structure, and give Earth a fighting chance. Some of us, perhaps all of us, will not return, but every minute we buy allows more of our people to reach the evacuation ships. The bridge remained silent as her words sank in. "Take your positions. Prepare for departure." As the massive docking clamps released, the Leviathan drifted free from its berth. Its engines glowed with an eerie blue light as the gravitational drive engaged, warping space around the vessel. From Cirrus Command, Admiral Chen watched the ship depart. "Godspeed, Leviathan," she whispered. The massive black ship accelerated smoothly, then vanished in a flash of distorted light as it created its own shortcut through the fabric of reality. Supreme Commander Vorax of the Voidborn Expansion Fleet stood on the command platform of his flagship, observing the tactical display with his 6 eyes. The human defenses had proven more resilient than anticipated, but the outcome was never in doubt. Their primitive technology and predictable tactics made their defeat inevitable. "The human fleet at Neptune has been eliminated," reported his second-in-command. "Their remaining ships have retreated to the orbit of their homeworld as expected." "Predictable," Vorax replied, the translator converting his harmonic speech patterns into understandable language. "Organics always prioritize defense of their origin planets. It is an emotional response that makes their defeat efficient." The Voidborn invasion fleet moved in perfect formation, over 300 vessels arranged in concentric rings around the command ships. They had subjugated or eliminated 23 species before encountering humans, and none had offered significant resistance for long. "Prepare the standard subjugation protocol," Vorax ordered. "Target their major population centers first. Once their leadership structure surrenders, we can begin processing the viable specimens." Before the order could be carried out, an alarm sounded across the command deck. On the tactical display, a single ship appeared at the edge of the battle zone. It moved with impossible speed, its configuration unlike any human vessel they had previously encountered. "Supreme Commander, unknown vessel detected," reported the sensor operator. "Energy signatures are anomalous. Configuration does not match any known human design." Vorax studied the readings with mild curiosity. "Scan it. Perhaps they've been concealing their true technological capabilities. Scan complete, the officer reported after a moment. Results are inconsistent. Mass readings fluctuate. Energy signatures suggest manipulation of gravitational fields on a scale we've not encountered before. But it appears to be a single vessel of moderate size. A desperate final effort, Vorex decided. Dispatch 3rd Squadron to eliminate it. Continue primary mission preparations. 5 void-borne warships broke formation, moving to intercept the approaching vessel. They arranged themselves in standard attack configuration, energy weapons charged and ready. Aboard the Leviathan, Captain Rice watched the enemy ships approach. "They're sending only 5 vessels," reported Tactical Officer Dias. "Standard elimination formation. They don't consider us a serious threat." Rice smiled coldly. "That's their first mistake. Prepare gravitational lance for demonstration. Target the lead vessel only." As the void-borne ships closed to firing range, they launched a coordinated barrage of energy beams, weapons that would have torn apart any conventional human vessel instantly. The beams struck the Leviathan's hull and simply disappeared, absorbed by the metamaterials and redirected into the ship's energy storage systems. "No damage," reported Chief Engineer Takashi, his voice tinged with surprise despite the simulations that had predicted this outcome. "Energy capture successful. Storage at 120% capacity." On the void-borne command ship, Vorex received the unexpected report. "Impossible. Scan again." "Confirmed, Supreme Commander. Our weapons had no effect. The human vessel is now emitting an unusual gravitational distortion." The Leviathan's primary weapon, the gravitational lance, activated for the first time in actual combat. A concentrated beam of distorted spacetime shot forth, striking the lead void-borne vessel. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Different parts of the alien ship experienced radically different gravitational forces. The bow pulled toward the beam at hundreds of times normal gravity, while the stern was pushed away with equal force. The void-borne vessel literally tore itself apart, breaking into pieces that then collapsed into themselves as micro-singularities formed briefly before dissipating in flashes of Hawking radiation. Complete silence fell over the void-borne command deck as they witnessed the destruction of one of their most advanced warships in seconds. "All vessels, full attack formation," Vorex ordered, his harmonic tones shifting to a higher register that indicated alarm. "Concentrate all fire on the human vessel." The remaining ships of the 3rd Squadron fired simultaneously, pouring energy into the Leviathan. Again, the beams were absorbed, the black hull seeming to drink in the attacks without effect. "Energy storage at maximum capacity," reported Takashi. "Ready for gravitational fold maneuver." Reyes nodded. "Execute." The Leviathan disappeared from the void-borne sensors, only to reappear instantly behind the attacking squadron. Before they could react, the gravitational lance fired again, this time sweeping across all 4 remaining ships. They suffered the same fate as the first, torn apart by forces that defied their understanding of physics. On the flagship, Vorex faced something he had never experienced in centuries of military command: uncertainty. "All vessels, defensive formation Alpha," he ordered. "Prioritize the human ship as primary target. Deploy temporal disruption fields." The void-borne fleet reorganized with mechanical precision, creating layered defensive screens around the command vessels. But the Leviathan was already on the move again, its gravitational drive allowing it to appear and disappear across the battlefield at will, systematically targeting key vessels in the void-borne formation. "They're adapting," Dias reported as the Leviathan emerged from another fold. "Their defensive fields are attempting to compensate for our gravitational weapons." Reyes had anticipated this. "Deploy antimatter cascade." The Leviathan's secondary weapon system activated, releasing precisely calibrated bursts of antimatter particles contained within gravitational fields. When these fields touched the void-borne defensive screens, they collapsed, allowing the antimatter to contact normal matter. The resulting annihilation created explosions that rippled through the void-borne formation, destroying dozens of ships and damaging many more. Their formation is breaking down, Diaz reported with grim satisfaction. Command and control appears disrupted. Reyes studied the tactical display. The intelligence gathered by Earth's forces had been correct. The Voidborn relied on rigid hierarchical command. With their formations disrupted and communications impaired by the Leviathan's gravitational distortion field, individual ships were hesitating, waiting for orders that couldn't reach them. Target their command vessels, Reyes ordered. Full power to the gravitational lance. The Leviathan executed another fold, reappearing at the heart of the Voidborn fleet, directly in front of Vorex's flagship. Before the massive command vessel could react, the gravitational lance fired at maximum power, enveloping the ship in a field of distorted spacetime. Unlike the smaller vessels, the flagship had additional defensive systems that temporarily resisted the attack. Vorex watched in disbelief as his impervious command vessel began to buckle under forces he had believed impossible. "This cannot be," he communicated to his officers. Their species was assessed as primitive, centuries from achieving gravitational manipulation technology. As his flagship began to break apart around him, Vorex sent a final transmission to the Voidborn homeworld. Caution. Humans possess unexpected technological capabilities. Recommend immediate reassessment of threat classification. The flagship imploded, taking the Supreme Commander and the entire Voidborn command structure with it. Without central coordination, the remaining Voidborn vessels fell into disarray. Some attempted to continue the attack, others to retreat, but the Leviathan hunted them methodically, its weapon systems proving overwhelming against even their advanced technology. 3 hours after the Leviathan had entered the battle, the once mighty Voidborn invasion fleet had been reduced to scattered remnants fleeing the solar system. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the tactical feeds with a mixture of awe and vindication. "They thought us primitive," she said to President Alvarez, who stood beside her in the command center. "They never considered that being underestimated is humanity's greatest advantage." The Leviathan returned to Earth orbit 3 days later, its hull bearing scars from the few successful Voidborn attacks, but fundamentally intact. Captain Reyes and her crew were hailed as heroes, the saviors of humanity. But in the darkness between stars, the Voidborn homeworld received Vorex's final message. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Voidborn Council updated their threat assessment of a species they had encountered. Humans were reclassified from primitive organics to extreme threat, avoid engagement. Throughout the galaxy, as word spread of how a single human ship had devastated the previously unstoppable Voidborn fleet, other spacefaring civilizations took notice. The species they had dismissed as newcomers had demonstrated power that made even ancient races pause. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy not as the primitive beings the Voidborn had expected, but as a force to be reckoned with, perhaps even feared. And aboard the Leviathan, as repairs began and plans were made for future missions, Captain Reyes gazed out at the stars. "They won't underestimate us again," she said softly. "None of them will."